Oh, this is beautiful. This is absolutely poetic. You need to hear this right now because something happened that you don't even know about yet. Something shifted in the shadows. Something changed in the war room where your enemies gather to plot your destruction. They had a plan, a perfect plan, a foolproof strategy that took months to execute. They studied you. They watched you. They identified every crack in your armor, every gap in your defenses, every person you trusted, and then they made their move. They planted someone in your life, someone designed to get close, someone trained to extract information, someone whose entire purpose was to be your downfall disguised as your friend. But here's where the story takes a turn. They never saw coming. Here's where their carefully constructed operation collapsed into absolute chaos. That spy, that informant, that person who was supposed to be feeding them everything they needed to destroy you, they switched sides. Not partially, not secretly playing both teams, completely, fully, irreversibly. They looked at the people who sent them, the ones signing the checks, the ones pulling the strings, and they said, no, not this one. I won't do this to them. And now they're not just refusing to betray you. They're actively protecting you, warning you, defending you against the very people who deployed them. Do you understand what just happened? Do you comprehend the magnitude of what your existence just accomplished? You turned an enemy operative into a guardian angel without even trying. You converted a weapon aimed at your heart into a shield protecting it. You did something that billion-dollar intelligence agencies can't do. You flipped an asset through nothing but being authentically, undeniably, impossibly you. Let me tell you how this started. Let me paint you the picture of that room where they gathered to discuss your elimination. Not physical elimination. No, they're not that brave. They wanted something worse. They wanted to dismantle you piece by piece. Your reputation, your relationships, your peace of mind, your future. They wanted to take everything you've built and watch it crumble while you stood there wondering what happened. They sat around that table, these cowards who smile in your face and plot behind your back, and they asked themselves a question: how do we get inside? How do we access the parts of their life we can't see? How do we find the ammunition we need when they're so careful, so guarded, so impossible to read? And someone had an idea. Someone always has an idea when destruction is the goal. What if we send someone in? What if we create a connection? What if we manufacture a friendship, a relationship, a bond that gives us eyes and ears exactly where we need them? So they found their candidate, someone who could match your energy, someone who could speak your language, someone who seemed like they belonged in your world. They briefed this person, gave them your file, told them everything they thought they knew about you, your weaknesses, your triggers, your blind spots. They said, get close, gain trust, report back everything. And it worked. At first. That person showed up in your life at exactly the right moment, said exactly the right things, seemed to understand you in ways others didn't. You let them in. You trusted them. You opened doors you usually keep locked because something about them felt different. What you didn't know was that every conversation was being analyzed. Every vulnerable moment was being documented. Every secret you shared was supposed to become a weapon. They were building a case against you, constructing a narrative, preparing for the moment they'd have enough to strike. But something happened that wasn't in the briefing. Something occurred that their psychological profiles didn't predict. Something shifted that no amount of planning could have anticipated. That person actually got to know you. Not the version of you that your enemies described. Not the monster they painted in their strategy sessions. Not the threat they convinced themselves you were. The real you. The one who shows up when no one's watching. The one who gives without expecting. The one who carries weight that would crush most people and still asks others if they're okay. They saw you struggle and keep going. They saw you get knocked down and stand back up. They saw you have every reason to become bitter and choose kindness instead. They saw the version of you that your enemies are terrified of. Not because you're dangerous to them, but because you're proof that their entire worldview is wrong. And somewhere in that observation, somewhere in those moments of genuine connection, something broke inside them. The lies they'd been told started cracking. The mission they'd accepted started feeling wrong. The person they were supposed to destroy started feeling like the most real thing they'd ever encountered. They went back to report and found themselves editing, leaving things out, softening the truth, protecting information they were supposed to be extracting. They told themselves it was strategic, that they needed more time, more access, more trust before they could deliver the killing blow. But that was a lie they told themselves because they couldn't face the truth yet. The truth that they didn't want to destroy you anymore. The truth that somewhere along the way, the mission stopped making sense. The truth that the people who sent them started looking like the real villains in this story. You want to know when the switch happened? The exact moment they went from spy to defender? It was that night. You know which one I'm talking about. The night you broke down when no one was supposed to be watching. The night you let your guard down because you thought you were alone. The night you showed the cracks in your armor, the exhaustion behind your eyes, the weight you've been carrying that no one else can see. They witnessed that. They saw you at your most human, and in that moment they realized something that shattered their entire operation. You weren't the person they'd been told about. You weren't a target. You weren't a threat. You were just someone trying to survive in a world that keeps trying to break you, just like them. And they thought about the people who sent them, the ones who laugh at your pain, the ones who celebrate your struggles, the ones who would weaponize your vulnerable moments without a second thought. And they felt sick, physically sick, because they almost became one of them. They almost helped them win. That's when the choice was made. Not with fanfare, not with dramatic declarations, just a quiet decision in a quiet moment. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. Whatever they're paying me, whatever they promised me, it's not worth becoming the kind of person who destroys someone like this. But they didn't just stop spying. That would have been the easy path, the neutral path, the coward's path. No, they did something that takes a kind of courage most people will never understand. They became your shield. They went back to those meetings where your destruction was planned, and they started feeding misinformation, wrong details, false vulnerabilities, strategies that would backfire. They protected the real you while giving them a fiction to chase. When your enemies planned attacks, suddenly those attacks would fail. When they tried to exploit your weaknesses, those weaknesses weren't where they expected. When they attempted to turn people against you, somehow those people had already been warned. You thought you were lucky. You thought the universe was protecting you. You thought maybe you were just too smart, too careful, too guarded to be caught. But it wasn't luck. It wasn't the universe. It wasn't even you. It was them. Your accidental guardian, your converted enemy, your spy turned soldier in a war they were supposed to be fighting against you. And here's what's really keeping your enemies up at night. They know. They've finally figured it out. They've realized their weapon went rogue. They've discovered that the person they trusted with your destruction has become the biggest obstacle to it. And they can't do anything about it. Because that person knows everything. Every plan, every strategy, every player, every weakness in their operation. If they try to remove them, everything gets exposed. If they try to discredit them, they risk their own exposure. They created a perfect double agent by accident, and now they're trapped by their own operation. The paranoia is eating them alive. If this person flipped, who else might flip? If your authenticity could convert their best operative, what does that say about their cause? If being around you is enough to make people question everything they've been told, how can they ever send anyone close to you again? You've become unconquerable. Not through force, not through strategy, not through playing their games better than they play them, but through something they don't have a defense against. Something they can't manufacture or manipulate or defeat. Being real. Just being genuinely, authentically, impossibly real. In a world full of performers, you're the one person who doesn't have a mask. In a sea of hidden agendas, you're the one person whose agenda is visible. In an existence dominated by people pretending to be something they're not, you're the one person who's exactly what they appear to be. And that's kryptonite to people built on lies. That's acid to foundations made of deception. That's nuclear radiation to systems that depend on everyone being fake. They can't fight authenticity. They can't strategize against genuine kindness. They can't defend against someone who's exactly who they claim to be, because all their weapons are designed for a different kind of war. Let me tell you what your defender sees now when they look at you. They don't see a target anymore. They see someone who changed them without trying. They see proof that their cynicism was wrong. They see evidence that good people actually exist, even in a world that punishes goodness. They see the reason they're willing to risk everything, not for money, not for advantage, but because protecting you feels like the first right thing they've done in years. You gave them something they didn't know they needed. A reason to believe again? A cause worth fighting for. A reminder of who they were before they became someone else's weapon. And now they watch your enemies with different eyes. They sit in those meetings and see the pettiness, the jealousy, the emptiness that drives the people trying to destroy you. They hear the plans and feel disgust instead of purpose. They look at the faces of your enemies and see their own former face, and they hate what they almost became. Your existence is a mirror that shows people who they really are. For some, that reflection is unbearable. They see their own darkness, and they want to destroy the mirror rather than face the truth. But for others, that reflection is a wake-up call. They see what they could become. They see the path back to themselves, and they take it. That spy took it. They looked in the mirror you unknowingly held up, and they chose differently. They chose to be the person they were before they were recruited. They chose to protect instead of destroy. They chose you over them. And now you have something your enemies never anticipated. You have someone on the inside. Someone who knows their playbook. Someone who can see their moves before they make them. Someone who turned their greatest weapon into your greatest advantage. But here's the part you need to understand. This isn't about that one person. This is about what you are. This is about the frequency you operate on. This is about the energy you carry that converts enemies into allies without you even knowing it's happening. You've been doing this your whole life. People who were supposed to hate you ended up respecting you. People who were warned about you ended up defending you. People who were sent to judge you ended up understanding you, because something about your presence cuts through programming. Something about your energy dissolves the lies people have been told. Something about your truth makes it impossible to maintain fiction. They can send 100 spies, and every single one risks being converted. They can plant 1,000 informants, and every single one might become a protector, because you're not fighting them with their weapons. You're fighting them with something they can't defend against. You're fighting them with the one thing their entire system is designed to suppress: authentic human connection. Real recognizes real. And when someone real gets close enough to you, they recognize what they've been missing. They feel the contrast between your truth and their lies. They experience the difference between your peace and their chaos. And some of them, the ones who still have a spark of who they used to be, they can't go back to the darkness after being that close to light. So what now? What do you do with this knowledge? What changes now that you know someone out there chose you over everything they were supposed to believe? Nothing. That's the answer. You do nothing different. You keep being exactly who you've been. You keep operating with the same authenticity that converted an enemy into a guardian. You keep trusting the energy that protects you in ways you can't even see. Because the moment you start performing, the moment you start strategizing, the moment you start playing their games, you lose the very thing that makes you unconquerable. Your power isn't in clever tactics. It's in being incapable of being anything other than yourself. They'll send more. They'll try again. They'll find new angles and new operatives and new schemes. And some of them will fail the normal way, but some of them will fail the extraordinary way. Some of them will get close enough to see you, really see you, and they'll make the same choice your defender made. Not this one. This one is real. This one I protect. And every time that happens, every time an enemy becomes an ally, every time a spy becomes a shield, your network grows stronger. Not a network you built, not a network you recruited, a network that assembled itself around the gravity of your authenticity. That's the real twist in this story. They thought they were infiltrating you, but you were infiltrating them. Every person they sent close enough to know you became a carrier of your frequency, a seed planted in their organization, a virus in their system that spreads the disease of truth. They're afraid now. They're finally afraid, not of what you might do to them, but of what proximity to you does to their people. They're realizing that you're not a target to be eliminated. You're a contagion to be quarantined. And they can't quarantine authenticity. So sleep well tonight, knowing that somewhere out there, someone is watching over you that you never expected. Someone is feeding your enemies lies while feeding you protection. Someone chose you when choosing you meant risking everything. And tomorrow, when you walk through your life feeling alone, feeling like no one has your back, feeling like you're fighting every battle solo, remember this: you have a defender you didn't recruit, a guardian you didn't hire, a soldier who chose your side, not because you asked, but because being around you showed them what side they should have been on all along. They planted a